for November 30th, we finished the code that we started working on yesterday in the live stream. That looks prettier now. Hello, fellow Sublime Text fanatics. ODAT Nature. Welcome to your Devember devlog update for November 30th, the second to last day, the anti-penultimate day. Tomorrow is the last day. I can't remember between anti-penultimate, penultimate. Anyway, tomorrow is the last day of November. I'm going to be doing the last live stream for this particular project live here on the channel tomorrow, 8 p.m. Pacific. Use the buttons down below. Thumb, subscribe, share, ring the bell notification icon. Follow me on Twitter. Hop in, chat while we work on the last bit of stuff for this. For Devember. We're still going to work on this package. Anyway, it's going to be a great time. Anyway, let's dive into what we actually did. Now, if you watched the live stream for yesterday, you will know that what we were working on was actually being able to make edits inside of the plugin and send them up to YouTube, hence YouTube Editor. It's something that I've wanted this to do for a long time. We finally got around to it. We spent a bunch of time working on it. And as we can see here, the very last commits went in at 11:58 p.m. yesterday. And then they were modified by me changing the commit message on them, because when I'm doing a live stream and I make commits, I just put a small couple of word blurb in here and then go back and put in my normal commit messages after the stream's over, so that nobody needs to see me type in these sorts of things in. Now, what we actually discovered during the live stream is that when you send the request up, you specify the body of the request, that is the things that you want to change. And it's very much the same format as the data that you would get if you asked for video details, but you can't use all of the fields in there. As a matter of fact, if you do, you get a 500 error, even though there's various other 400 errors that it'll give you if you'd make some other mistake. So I think that's a bug on YouTube's part. In any case, the ultimate thing that we need to do is filter out the data that we're sending up there to make sure that it has only fields that we can actually do something with. Because what we actually want to do is just take the data as we asked YouTube for it. We say, I want to edit this video, give me the details. We fetch them all down, we store them, we modify the title, we modify the description, we modify the tags. Then we take that new data, stick it back into the data that we already got, and then give it to YouTube and say, go, make this update. So we need something to filter things out. Now, we actually did that yesterday. It looked very manky. We're going to see it some more here. I didn't really like the way that it was done, but we were really close to the end of the stream because we went super long on the stream yesterday. We probably will tomorrow too as well. I'm not entirely sure. So the very first thing I did was actually move the filtering code from the place where it was, which was inside of the command that's doing this modification, to the network code, which makes more sense to me logically, because the network code is the thing that's actually making the request, and everything that we do that requires low-level knowledge of manipulating things for requests, sending, and receiving happens in here. It should be the job of this code and not whatever is asking for the request to make sure that it's correct. So what we have here is this set video keys. This is a dictionary. The keys represent the names of top level keys that can exist in the dictionary when we ship it up to YouTube. Any other keys can't exist in here. For these keys, it's either a Boolean to say whatever the value for this is, just store it into the dictionary exactly the way that it is. Don't filter it at all. Or it's a set of fields that are the list of fields that are allowed to exist inside of that particular top level key. So for example, in the snippet, we can change the title, the description, the tags, what category we're in, and what the default language is, and so forth. So this lays out the structure of how all of this stuff is supposed to work. And we have this new filter video details. So you're going to give this an actual full-on details object like you would get from asking YouTube, give me the details on this video. And then we create a new empty object, iterate over all of the set keys, and then do some stuff. So first of all, if this particular key isn't in these details, don't sweat it, just skip it, because this is the list of all things that can appear doesn't mean it's all of the list of things that should appear or need to appear. Secondly, if this particular key's value is a Boolean, then just copy it over directly into the filtered object and continue. We're doing that for two reasons. One, the ID is just a string, and whatever it is, just copy it. Ain't nothing need to happen there. And secondly, for localizations, because this is actually a more complicated key, and I'm not getting into any internationalization. So if you want to set this, be my guest, make sure that you put the right stuff in there. We'll cycle back on that later if I ever decide that I want to start translating all of my stuff and updating title translations in different languages or something. I'd really rather let YouTube's automated systems do that. If either of those things aren't the case, then there's a list of keys. So we have a set operation here. This set is the set that comes from the dictionary and says for any particular key what top level keys are allowed. For example, in snippet, title, description, tags, category ID, and default language. This one is a set that is all of the keys in the dictionary that we were given for that key. This is going to be the snippet key. We're going to get all of those keys. These are the ones that are actually in the dictionary. And we do the set intersection operation to find the intersection of these two things, which says, essentially, depending on which way you want to look at it, for all of the keys that actually exist in this dictionary, remove everything that isn't something that we can put in there. Basically, it's the common subset. So if there are keys that can exist but aren't in this list, for example, if you decided you did not want to modify the description and did not put description in here, then description won't end up in the resulting set because it's not in this dictionary, you didn't add it. And similarly, for any keys in here that are part of any of these things but aren't allowed, they just fall out. And then we used a very simple dictionary comprehension to actually take all of those keys and copy them over to the new details, which we then returned. And this took a fair amount of debugging because I used the same variable here as I used here. Then I decided to change this one, and then I realized that various other things needed to change. Basically, I had the right logic, but the wrong variable name for iterating things, so I had to keep running it until I eventually got it correct. This actually adds the filtering, but isn't actually used for anything yet. Now, what we actually do in this commit is actually implement it. So inside of the network code, instead of just assuming that whatever you get is correct, we now filter it. So this request is now responsible for making sure the data is correct. This is all of the manky code that we threw away for that other more succinct code. Multiple different dictionaries, or sets rather, of keys. These are the top level keys we were using, which isn't even all of them, but we were just testing it to see. And for inside of the snippet, this is what would be in here. For status, this is what would be in here. This is a list of all of the ones that we're actually using. This doesn't include all of them because there is recording details, for example. Now see, all of this red code changed to this nice green code. Now some of this is actually the same sort of stuff. We need to get the data for the tags, the title, and the description, do a little bit more work on the tags and store it into the details. But previously we did these in multiple sets. First top level keys, details, and status. Get the subdictionary, use the same sort of set operation to get the keys that we need to do, use the dictionary comprehension, set stuff over. It looks so much nicer now. So this is code moving, but actually still works the same way. And next up, in the live stream, we were very confused about how when we were making modifications and we were having errors all the time, the panel wasn't showing up to log the errors. I had to manually open it. The reason for that is a week or bit ago, maybe in one of last week's live streams, I'm going to say, we added the ability to add the utility panel for things like finding all the videos with the missing table of contents. We already had a panel for logging, so we needed a different panel. So I went around and modified the panel names for things to be able to do that. And I put a space in these places that are actually responsible for displaying the panel, but in the thing where it's actually putting it in the panel, that one I got right. So that one sort of slipped by me because errors weren't happening and things were appearing inside of the console. So I fixed that bad boy up. I maximized the window when I didn't mean to. Pardon me, I covered my head. Now, I wanted to actually make the command that updates the data to actually provide some sort of feedback. And this is where I was trying to get it to open the panel, realized it wasn't working, fixed that other bug, and then realized it was too intrusive. And I'm just using a status bar message so that there's something that appears. If there's an error, that will pop it up. But otherwise, you just see the status bar saying, hey, it's updated, it's good. And while I was in the vicinity, because the window has this hidden setting that is all of the video details, after it gets updated, we actually update the setting with the new data that came back from the request to make sure that if any other command wants to do something with this video or this window, that the data that it accesses out of that setting is actually correct and mirrors what's currently up, right? And we have to undaughty that because this is a setting and it only stores raw Python types and not custom classes. And then the next bit was to we're going to be doing something with refreshing the cache. So in all of the places where the cache can be refreshed, and remember this is when you make any request, you can include refresh equals true inside of it, or just include the key refresh. It doesn't even really matter what the value is, and that'll get it to drop whatever it thinks is in the cache out so that it has to request it again. And this happens in a few different places. We modified this so that the log actually says when that's happening, because it's nice to know. We're going to use it for debugging in this commit right here, where when we're actually opening up the window in Sublime with the video details, with the title and the body and the tags and the thumbnail on the right hand side, we were always, we were doing a fetch for video details. What we've added in here in both cases, whether we were given an explicit video ID or we went through the rigmarole of browsing and picked one, that it passes refresh true to make sure that whatever video data we might actually have gets thrown away so that we can have the freshest data. And this is to forestall a problem. Like, we fire up the package on the first, it downloads everything, and then on Wednesday we go into the YouTube studio and actually edit the content of a video in some fashion, like modify the title or some part of the description, say to add a link or something. And then on Friday, we come back into Sublime, want to modify the description some more, but we cache the data from Monday, and as a result, our changes from Wednesday are thrown away. We don't want any of that stuff to happen, so we force the video to download a new version when the window opens to make sure that the data is going to be kept safe. And the last thing we fixed here was thumbnail handling. Now, this is 100% my fault. As we can see here in the new code, we're doing the correct thing, which is telling the thing that loads the thumbnail the URL of the image to load, which is inside of the snippet part. Inside of the thumbnails of the snippet, there's a bunch of keys for the different resolutions: low, medium, high, standard, blah, blah, blah. Get the URL for that, pass it in, load it. Previously, what we were doing is noting that the URL always appeared to be identical, but except for the video ID. So let's just pass this in, which is 100% because we weren't using Dotty when we implemented this thing way back. I believe in Devember of last year is probably when this code was added in here. And this would be every one of these parts would be followed by a square bracket and that thing in string. So this would be ridiculously long. It was terrible. This is actually one of the things that probably got me to use Dotty in the first place. So we actually fetch it down. Now, the interesting thing about here is this is what the URL used to look like. This is what it looks like now. Now, you might think this looks the same except for the host name is different. Actually, this is important too. Without this query parameter on this URL, it doesn't get the right data out of it, which is weird. I mean, I don't know how their API works. It really seems like if you set and I only tested this a few different ways. If you set the URL, the thumbnail for a video when you first add it, you end up with the URL that looks like this. But if you augment or modify the thumbnail after the video is being officially added for the first time, then you end up with something like this. The file name remains the same. It's on a slightly different host, which may or may not be a red herring. They probably have a big content delivery network or something. But this part is magic in here too. This is probably letting it know that it needs to use a different image or something. But I fixed that because I noticed in the live stream that things weren't working the way that we thought that they should. And that's all that we did in this particular day in Devember. Now, remember, today's the 30th. Tomorrow is going to be the very last day of Devember. It's going to be a live stream right here on the channel at 8 p.m. Pacific. Use the button down below. Thumbs, subscribe, and share. Ring the bell notification icon. Follow me on Twitter. It's the last day of Devember that we're going to be working on YouTube Editor. We may work it on it in other live streams in the new year because we do regular live streams on Tuesdays anyway. I've really been enjoying the double week thing, so I'm thinking that there's always going to be a Tuesday live stream. Maybe we inject some other ones in there too. I don't know. I wanted to do some extra live streams in Devember, but I never really had a chance because I was really busy. Anyway, the video making equipment that I was expecting tomorrow actually arrived earlier today, so I got to get off of here so I can go play with that a little bit while this thing is uploading. So see you in the live stream tomorrow. Hopefully come hang out, watch us develop the last little bits of this package. If not, see you in the next live stream recap, or the next video on the other channel linked down in the description below, which happens every Monday. Until any of those things, and if I don't see you before the new year, Happy New Year as well. Hopefully the next year goes a little bit better for everybody than this year did. This is ODAT Nerd asking you to please have a sublime day.